What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Lazy Goldmaker video. So in this one, we're going to talk a little bit about the latest PTR build because there's some very interesting stuff on there if you're into gold making, particularly if you've been doing the legendaries or been thinking about legendaries for 9.2. Then you're going to want to check this video out because the news are, well, they're pretty great. So let's take a look at what's new in this build, and then I'll talk a little bit about the ramifications of that. Alright, guys, so we're here. And what are the big changes in this build on the PTR? Well, the big relevant changes is the addition of the rune carving power that will give you the new legendary power that swaps between the various Covenant legendaries. So obviously we also get a belt for free from the Enlightened reputation. At the same level as you unlock this power, so you can craft it on other slots. And for those of you who are reading on screen, you'll already have noticed that you can rune carve this on every item slot that you can craft a legendary for. All of them. And that's very, very, very significant. Obviously, that's going to mean that there can be a situation where you want to craft this on another slot on the belt to maximize your total stat budget, because generally speaking, legendaries are higher item level than anything else. So you want to have legendaries on items with the largest amount of stats on them. That's going to be head, chest, and leggings. And then the second tier of stats is going to be shoulders, gauntlets, belt, and boots. And the last tier is bracers and cape, and rings and necklaces if you scale well with secondaries. That's the general tier. Of course, in 9.1, certain slots were ruled out due to the Shards of Domination, but that's not the case in 9.2. The limitation in 9.2 is going to be obviously the tier set from the raid. And the tier set, if we just go to the chest piece here, then we'll see that the tier set covers 5 slots, and there's a 4-player bonus. There's a 4-set bonus. You need 4 of them. And it's going to be hands, chest, shoulder, leggings, and what's the last one? Headpiece, obviously. Those are the 5 slots. That does cover all 3 of the top slots, which means that you can only get 1 out of head, chest, and leggings as a legendary if you want to have the 4-set bonus. That does mean that most players are going to want to have at least a legendary in one of those slots whenever they can. Obviously, the belt is very nice, the one you get for free, since it doesn't overlap with a slot in the tier set. So if you can, you're going to want one of head, chest, and legs, and then for the last slot, if possible, you're going to want belt or boots. That's the optimal setup, because hands and shoulders are going to be covered by the set, and they're only going to be picked where you can only get 2 legendaries on the shoulder, gloves, boots, belt tier of stats, which can be some cases as well. So that's the thing. So let's look at some powers, and I'll show you this with some examples from I'm logged into my Death Knight now, and if we take a look at, say, Kaltera's Favor. Kaltera's Favor can be crafted on shoulders or a finger. So this is to optimize your stats, you probably want to craft this on your shoulders. That's going to mean that you want to use the belt from the reputation. And you won't be able to get a max stat piece. It might also be that it's slightly better to have a Covenant legendary on chest, head, or legs, and combine that with a ring, depending on scaling. This is something that the theory crafters will have to figure out. And then once they figure that out, the majority of the community will follow, because they generally do what's best. Most people want to optimize their character. If you take a look at the Biting Cold, this is the M+ legendary power. You can put this on a head or belt. You're probably just going to put this on a headpiece and then keep the belt for get the belt from the reputation, unless it turns out that, say, you want to have head, chest, or legs for one of the other stats, then maybe it's better to have this on the belt, and then you have a chest piece Covenant legendary. No, because the interesting thing here is to look at the last one, with the Rage of the Frozen Champion, which you can put on wrist, hands, or finger. So this is once again one of those cases where the theory crafters will have to figure out okay, it's a combination of Rage of the Frozen Champion on bracers plus a chest piece for your Covenant power. Is that going to be better, more total stats than having these Rage of the Frozen Champion on your gloves and having the Covenant on belt or boots? Or maybe it's the ring, depending on scaling. Lastly, we have the Absolute Zero, which can only be put on a neck or wrist, just to go through all of these powers. In this case, you'd probably definitely want to have the Unity Legendary power on head, chest, or legs, and then have this on either wrist or neck, depending on secondary or primary stat scaling. So there's definitely going to be situations where the best place to have this new Unity Covenant swapping power is not the belt slot. So for some specs, I think they'll want to craft this on another item slot to be optimal. Obviously, we don't quite know yet because we're a little bit early in testing, but that's I expect to see scenarios where that's the best approach. And the effect of that is, of course, that for anyone who's playing one of these classes or these specs and they want to be optimal, they're going to need 2 legendaries, rank 7, fairly soon. As soon as they're able to unlock them, essentially. And if they want to do M+, or want to be able to swap into a more AoE-focused setup for certain bosses if they're raiders, they're going to want 1 or 2 more legendaries for other situations. So I think the demand for rank 7 legendaries is going to be incredible. Now, of course, we don't quite know what you need to do to unlock the vestige recipe, or what kind of time gating they have for actually crafting the finished rank 7 legendaries. So those pieces of the puzzle are still missing. That's definitely something we'll need to know. But once we do, then we can have a really good idea of when people might be able to get all of these legendaries. Imagine if this just unlocks at a certain time gate time, like you reach a certain rep level and now you can just craft rank 7 legendaries with rank 7 bases whenever you want at the Rune Carver. That would certainly be quite incredible, and would lead to the demand to which the likes of which we have never ever seen on a single day for rank 7 legendaries. It will be absolute pandemonium. Now there's one other thing to note here, and that's the fact that we no longer have Shards of Domination. We have the tier set, and that's going to swap what slots it's optimal to have your legendaries on. Just as an example, this Biting Cold legendary, in 9.1, you definitely want to have this on your belt, because your head is a Shard of Domination slot on every spec or every class. So no, most people aren't going to have this on their head. Whereas in 9.2, where you're not limited by Shards of Domination, it's definitely best to have this specific power on your headpiece. So if you want to optimize for 9.2 gameplay, you're going to want to recraft this. We might see a lot of people recrafting legendaries for 9.2, and see a lot of rank 6 sales, just like we saw an incredible amount of rank 4 sales at the beginning of 9.1, because people were recrafting their legendaries for the new slots that were optimal. I think demand is going to be incredible for legendaries in 9.2. I think it's going to be off the charts. It does, of course, depend a little bit on how we unlock the ability to craft these and the ability to finish them into items at the Rune Carver. That's really the big question, and obviously there's the big theory crafting question of exactly which legendaries are you going to want, like exactly what slots are best to use. And that's something that we'll just pay attention, because once balance changes start coming through, there hasn't been that many yet as far as I've seen. Once we see some more balance changes, then people are going to start theory crafting the best builds, updating guides for 9.2, and we'll start seeing like, okay, this is the optimal legendary setup for all of the specs in the game. And then once we have that, we can sum all that up, and I'm going to make a video for that, where we take a look at all of them, figure out what the best combinations are, and that's going to give us the relative demand of the various pieces, and we can get a good idea of what slots you should focus on leveling. Because with how things are right now, I think that even it's not too late. If you have enough gold to level some recipes, you will most likely make your gold back and then some in 9.2. My initial suggestion is to focus on the big 3, head, chest, legs. I think those are going to be the priority slots for most people whenever they can, because they give you the most bang for your buck. And of those slots, people are probably going to prioritize the ones that you wouldn't get until late in the raid. At least raiders are going to be that. So for warlocks, for instance, if they can put something on the chest, that's really good, because the chest doesn't drop until the second to last boss. So that optimizes their loot for progression, essentially. So yeah, that's about it for what I'm expecting for 9.2. As I said, this is looking it's looking like it has the potential to be one of the biggest gold rushes ever. Certainly the biggest gold rush of the expansion, perhaps with a caveat that the initial gold rush in legendaries might have been even bigger. But I think 9.2 is going to be one to watch. It's going to be a time to really make gold. So yeah, that's it. Just wanted to get this out there, this information, because if this goes live as it currently is, it's going to be incredible for gold making. So yeah, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel so YouTube knows that you want to get the follow-up video when we do get more information on the PTR. And we'll get you the best information to take advantage of the changes that are coming. Spoiler alert, I'm personally preparing with a lot of materials to craft legendaries, because I expect this to be incredibly profitable. Good luck, we'll see you on the next video. Goodbye, guys.